Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first installment of the What's Going On podcast. I'm your host, Barrette Lampley, and today we would originally be joined by our co-host, Barrette, but he isn't here, sadly. But we're going to make this work regardless. This podcast, we're going to be talking about some of the current events happening in the world, some good, some bad, and sure, I tell you, there's a lot of them. And like I said, they've been either terrible or good in some way or just kind of neutral, but they sure are interesting regardless. And we're just going to spend a little bit talking about some of the big ones that have been happening recently. Firstly, hurricane/tropical storm Ida, which ripped through southern Louisiana, which knocked out power and caused disruption on 911 lines, causing confusion and causing casualties and deaths. Started out as a Category 4 hurricane and made landfall, causing damage to the Baton Rouge and New Orleans area, and it dropped to a tropical storm status on Monday. Full rescue operations have been launched, including ones from helicopters and water vehicles, but in good news, the levee held up against the storm, and our best wishes go out to the people of that area. In more not-so-great news, today marks the first day in a while of Taliban-controlled Afghanistani rule. The U.S. has fully pulled out, leaving a bunch of people that were trying to evacuate still in Afghanistan. There have been a lot of casualties and deaths caused, one by suicide bombers from suspected ISIS-K, and also drone strikes launched by the United States that have affected civilians as well. As most of you probably know, there were U.S. servicemen and Afghan people killed in suicide bombing, so the U.S. tried to get everyone out as soon as possible to avoid further problems. We currently don't know. I don't know. I don't think a lot of people know what's coming up next in Afghanistan. We can only speculate, but we sure do hope that regardless of what happens, we can try to make the best of it and try to prevent bad things from happening. That's the main mission here, I think, is to try to prevent bad things from happening. Hopefully we'll have it under control as much as possible, and hopefully it will all be okay in some form or fashion. Of course, we send our regards to all of the people affected by this. There's been so much happening that's been really hard to wrap your brain around, taking a look at how scary the world is. And we send our best wishes to everyone, and we really feel for what's happening in the world because it hasn't been great at all. And I know, for one, I've been looking at the news every day and seeing the developments there, and I just... it just is scary, really, and it makes me really feel bad for a bunch of people. But hopefully we'll try to find a way to make things work in this world, regardless of what happens. But in better news, or more exciting news, the Jake Paul fight, he won against Tyron Woodley, who's apparently a UFC champion. I'm not a huge wrestling or boxing person myself, but Paul won 77-75, which is a very close matchup, which triggered a rematch from Woodley, as he claimed that his punches hit harder despite having a lower number of hits that he actually connected. Some people have thought that this is a boring fight, others as a nail-biter. It's very interesting. I've seen people that have thought one way or the other, so it's really interesting to see. I know, for one, I am just kind of surprised of Jake Paul's transformation from a clout-chasing YouTuber to a boxer with a pretty decent record. That's the majority of the interest I get from this, is that he just kind of keeps on challenging people, and now he's kind of a boxer. So I think that's interesting. But in kind of funny news, a China boy band group consisting of members between 7 and 10 years of age was dissolved after 3 days of existence because they had a bunch of complaints, mainly from adults and parents that thought that this was a bad influence. Because, of course, that's exploiting children, basically. And a lot of people complained against it. It was just a very young boy band group that didn't even have the chance to really do anything because there's so many complaints that the company just had to dissolve them quickly, to avoid resistance. So I thought that was kind of funny, but that's all of the current events that we have for today. I truly hope that we're able to get a full-fledged podcast with a better setup and stuff here soon with a co-host. We just have to work through some of the technical difficulties on our way, but hopefully we'll see you all soon. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.